Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I own a valuation company in St. Louis, Missouri. I have the privilege of discussing nonprofit organizations, accounting, strategic planning, and management today with Tosha Anderson, a CPA and nonprofit accounting expert in St. Louis, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
So you have given us so much information, but we don't know as much about you. So can you tell us kind of what your path to becoming an accountant was? And then you obviously have a passion for focusing on nonprofit organizations. So maybe we can talk about how'd you get to that space?
Yeah, so the accounting was a little of a practical decision. I was in business school and the economy was suffering. Back in 2006, 2007, I was in college when 9/11 happened, and you can imagine all the economic downturn from that effect. And I liked business, and I really enjoyed marketing, and I really enjoyed the international business idea, and I knew I would be in business. But I went into accounting because I realized I could probably do a lot of things within business with an accounting background, but I couldn't necessarily do accounting or finance or make accounting and finance decisions without a lot of training if I were to choose some other degree program. So it was purely practical. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, so I ended up in public accounting. I did that for about 7 years, and it's kind of a funny story. Nonprofits, very much, I think it's still very much true, are very much the stepchildren of professional services. People do it because we have bleeding hearts, and they do it to help out a nonprofit, but most professionals understanding that the accounting for nonprofits is a little bit more challenging, and they don't come from that background, generally don't prefer to work with that industry, particularly because they don't have a lot of money to pay you. So very few people want to do more work for less money. I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess, in that way. And me, like every other person that finds themselves a nonprofit, you never plan it. It just happens. One of the things I realized when I would go in and try to audit these clients, they were just a mess. They were a disaster. And it wasn't that they were trying to be difficult or non-compliant. They just didn't know. And then I realized how many people disliked serving this particular industry, but how much help they needed and to what a much higher standard that they have to be held to. So I realized, listen, somebody's got to devote more of their time to this space, and it might as well be me. So I left public accounting. I took a job as a CFO for one nonprofit. I did that for 4 years, and I realized I thought it was difficult then. As an auditor, I had no idea what I was walking into, the 4 pages of outcomes, as I mentioned. And I, out of survival, figured out a way to get their accounting down to just about 10 to 15 hours a week. And they're about $6 million a year. So this is not a small organization. And, I learned so much about the operational side of the business. So not just accounting, but HR, risk management, facilities. I have a funny story where I went into a client and she was giving me a tour, and I thought, wow, those gallery light bulbs must be really expensive, aren't they? And she looked at me and said, we can't afford to replace them. That's why they're not illuminated. And I said, why do I ask these questions? Why do I see these things? And it's because of the operational side of it is so much more difficult, I think, than we ever realized. So that's where I kept having people come to me and say, Tosha, do you know anybody that can do accounting? I know you're working with this one organization, but do you know anyone else? And the truth is I just didn't, and not at a level of price that most nonprofits can afford. So I always had this vision of applying all of the things I've learned in these different roles to a space that was committed to doing it as efficiently as possible and charging a fair price. And so 4.5 years ago, I started this firm. I plan to have no employees. I plan to have no office. I plan on having a couple clients. We now have 69 clients nationwide. I have a team of 10, so that didn't work out so well for me, but we're able to really help a lot of people, and almost all of our business comes through referrals, which has been incredible. But I think people like that combination of, yes, you are a very black and white accountant, and there's certain things we have to do, but we also understand the operational challenges and understanding that what do we have to do, but how can we get there that's not going to be administratively burdensome for our clients. So that's how I got into space. It was kind of accidental and a little strategic, but it's really awesome to be able to help others that I think many people have kind of given up on or felt like they couldn't be successful in. And we're just here to continue to solve that problem.